Niemand auf Gefechtsstation!
Greetings, folks. Iolair Ghorm here with a World of Warships replay. And a couple, 3 weeks ago, I earned the unique upgrade for the Tier 10 German battleship, the Großer Kurfürst. And since then, I've used the unique upgrade in a few battles. And prior to this battle, I didn't really feel like any of them were particularly special, or they really exemplified the influence that the unique upgrade can have on this ship. But this one I think is a pretty good one. So this is a domination match on Sea of Fortune. Our team rosters are a little bit unusual in that there are only 2 battleships per side, and each team also has 5 cruisers and 5 destroyers. Now, as far as my ship upgrades and commander skills, obviously the upgrades have changed as I've mounted the unique upgrade in slot 6, and that replaces the main battery upgrade that I normally and historically have taken, and I expect most people take as well. But I've also switched my commander skills back to maximum concealment, and I'll talk a little bit later about why that is. And I've also switched back to using the 420mm rifles for this battle, and that's because I got feedback from a couple of viewers of the replay I did where I compared the 406 and 420mm guns, and they pointed me to a website where you can actually do a data-based comparison of the penetration and other characteristics of these AP shells. And so, because the 420 does provide better penetration, I decided to give it a try again. Now, let me talk a little bit about what the unique upgrade does and how that's influenced how I play the game. So I apologize for folks that already know what the upgrade does, but for those who don't, the main downside, or in fact the principal downside of the unique upgrade is that it reduces the firing range by 8%, bringing it down to 19 kilometers. And even before this upgrade is applied, the Großer Kurfürst already has the shortest range of all Tier 10 battleships. And so by reducing the range even further, can influence its ability to be effective against its counterparts at this tier. One neutral, or what I characterize as a neutral influence on the ship, is that the turret traverse is slowed by 7%. And I characterize this as neutral because the main battery upgrade that I have historically taken, and I expect most people take, slows the turrets by 13%. So in some sense, the 7% reduction isn't as bad, but it's obviously not a key benefit. So I consider it kind of a neutral change. The benefits of the unique upgrade is that it improves the main battery and secondary battery reload times by 15%. And that you can definitely perceive, especially when you're in close quarter situations where this ship excels anyway. Now, as far as influences on how I play the game, this is less about affecting my gameplay style, like I saw with the Hindenburg. This is more about the commander build. So if you do not take the concealment expert skill on your commander, the Großer Kurfürst concealment is well more than 15 kilometers. And that, coupled with a 19-kilometer range, gives you only a little more than 3 kilometers to work with between your detection and your operational range of your guns, which to me is potentially pretty risky and pretty problematic. Whereas if you go full concealment, you bring the range down, your detection range down to 13.6 kilometers, which gives you quite a bit more flexibility in terms of positioning and being able to approach objectives. So I see this more, like I said, about adjusting the build for the ship and less about the playstyle, because, again, this ship really excels when it's closer in. And I've said in previous reviews, if you feel like you need 20 plus kilometers on a regular basis with the Großer Kurfürst, you're probably playing the battleship wrong anyway. All right, so let's get to the gameplay for this battle. So, being the easternmost battleship of the 2 battleships on our team, I come to Charlie to help support taking and holding this cap. And for some reason, our allied Musashi, which spawned on the western side, he has come east as well. And there will be some comments a little later in chat here asking the Musashi why. I asked him why he came east, and he claimed that he preferred to be on the Charlie side. But whatever the reason, the fact that he's not present there has really dampened our influence on the west flank. We're outnumbered there. We don't have the same firepower. And so our western flank eventually is going to get overrun, but they are putting up obviously some resistance, and it's going to take a little while for the opposing team to push through that flank. Conversely, our position and our position on the east flank is very good, and so I'm going to be able to round this corner and be able to start pushing back towards west against what was their eastern flank. And with this next salvo that I'm going to put out here on the Neptune, he goes undetected briefly, but he's going to show up back here in just a moment. With this next salvo, I'm going to finish off the Neptune for my first kill. There goes the St. Louis that was on the west flank. You can see that in Hotel or Gulf 1, we have an allied Cleveland that has kind of tucked himself into a corner. We're not sure what happened. There will be some comments in chat from different people asking what's happened to our Cleveland. We don't know if he was a bot or he had some sort of personal emergency and he needed to think he was trying to get himself into a position where he wouldn't be attacked, or he disconnected or something. But in any case, Cleveland is out of the battle. All right, so we have a very strong hold, obviously, on C, but our mid and west position is very poor at this point. Now, I'm going to call out to this Kagero that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen and ask him to provide me some scouting and screening support on the north side, and he acknowledges. And so I'm going to give a huge shout-out to this player, Commodore Wiley, I think is probably how he pronounces his username, because he stays with me for the rest of the battle and provides excellent screening support for me on this flank. My immediate concern is an opposing destroyer that will come and obviously torp me, and having the Kagero out front, even with the Hydro, can give me some advanced warning on the destroyer or the destroyer's torpedoes. So I did compliment this Kagero in game. There I'm detected, so I do know that there's a destroyer that's moved out in front, although it also theoretically could have been the Buffalo, but it turns out it is the opposing Kitakaze. And the Kagero is going to come over here and support me, which is a huge thank you. And I did compliment him in the game, and I do want to shout out, like I said, in this replay for him. We have a couple of destroyers that have now moved into Bravo. We've kind of lost our western flank, and our Harugumo is going to go down, but we've delayed the opposing team strongly enough on the west side that we're now able to get into Bravo and get some control on the center of the map, which is usually critical and necessary to win a battle. Here the opposing Kitakaze does show up. I put up my Hydro. The reality is that even with Hydro, and even though it is German Hydro and you get maximum warning on torpedoes, the Kurfürst is so big and so clumsy that it isn't always possible to dodge the torpedoes. So now here I see the torpedoes well in advance, but I am still going to take one on the bow. I suppose maybe with some more delicate maneuvering I might have been able to avoid these, but I take it on the bow. That way I damage saturate it, and so that if I'm in a situation where I'm facing another torpedo strike, I try to get that on the bow as well, and minimize the amount of damage due to the damage saturation. The opposing Kitakaze does show up. I don't know whether he was flushed out by the torpedoes of the Kagero. He's definitely outside my Hydro range just yet, but my secondaries here are going to finish off the Kitakaze. Our Kagero, again, huge thanks to him for supporting me here, but he made himself quite exposed by engaging the Kitakaze and not remaining in some form of concealment, although he may not have been able to get in concealment. And so he's taken a pretty heavy beating. In fact, there's one more salvo that has come from the Buffalo. His engine is out. It kind of seems like he doesn't have last stand, since he doesn't get moving. But at least for me, as the battleship, the important part is that the torpedo threat has been neutralized. And that was a big thank you and big help from the Kagero player to make that happen. So now my next focus is going to be continuing to move west here and put pressure on the opposing Republic and the Buffalo. We continue to maintain our hold on Bravo, but the opposing team is quite strong in the south, and they are pushing back our flank that is there. And at some point they will, to a large extent, kind of overrun it, and they will be able to get back into Bravo. But at that point, our team will be moving into Alpha. So we're kind of like chasing each other around the map islands a little bit here. I'm going to pop a spotter plane here so I get a better view of the opposing Ismo. Again, this is not for range. This is to get a better angle on a shot here. Now, again, my next focus, like I said, is going to be with the Republic and the Buffalo. Now, the Kagero, I appreciate his enthusiasm to support me here. But at this point, he should be backing off. We have eliminated the torpedo threat. I need him to let me worry about the Buffalo and the Republic. I would have preferred that he stay in concealment and not fire his guns and simply back off and let me work on these two vessels. Now, I'm going to train my main battery now on the Republic. My secondaries are set on the Buffalo, and there's an important reason I'm doing this, because the secondaries aim for the middle part of the ship, and when you set your secondaries on a battleship that is this close quarters like I have the Republic here, they will tend to hit the main belt and simply shatter. So the main value, that was a pretty nice salvo on the Republic, the main value that secondaries offer on these larger targets like that is to set fires. However, the secondaries do get decent alpha damage and some reasonably consistent alpha damage on softer targets like cruisers and destroyers, and that's why I prefer to have my secondaries set on those types of targets. Moreover, the Buffalo is almost 10 kilometers away, and so the secondaries are less likely to strike its main belt and more likely to strike its softer areas on, let's say, its deck or the bow, stern, or the superstructure. And my secondaries here, just a couple more hits, it's going to finish off the opposing Buffalo. And there he goes for my second close quarters. So now I'm going to turn to the opposing Ismo. This salvo isn't going to be very good, partly I think because of his angling, but also I thought he was still backing up. And I don't think I penned very many locations that where I could have. So this doesn't end up being a very good salvo. I think I ended up hitting, I aim a little too far behind him, thinking he was still backing up more, and it was only 5K. Now, our allied Fletcher does get the Ismo down, but he pays for it with his life, so not sure how good of a trade that was. We are now even on points, but we're going to start getting past the team because we hold 2 caps, even though we do have a ship deficit. The opposing Kitakaze has moved into Bravo, though, and so he's starting to take that cap back. Here is the opposing Ibuki that came back toward Alpha. Obviously set my secondaries on him, and then the opposing Kitakaze shows up for just a moment. I switch my secondaries to him, and then he goes back into concealment, and then I'm going to end up switching my secondaries back to the Ibuki. Obviously, I have Hydro up here in case, in anticipation of torpedoes from the Ibuki, which he has sent. We just haven't detected them yet. This salvo was sent a little bit behind, but it doesn't really matter. I get 2 full pens and enough to finish off the cruiser. And that is Kraken Unleashed and High Caliber. Obviously going to hold my repair here in anticipation of the torpedoes, which they do come, but because I was angled towards him, he ended up sending short, and I'm going to be able to sail past them here. The opposing Kitakaze has gotten Bravo. He's briefly detected here, but he's going to slip back into concealment. The opposing Minotaur is almost dead. Go down here in just a moment. There he goes. I want to give a shout out also to our Seattle. He was really good at helping with map and cap control. He did have to flee Bravo when the opposing team pushed through on the south side, but he's been able to hold a very good presence. In fact, he has he ends up, I think, with the second highest XP for the team in this battle. Our ally Kagero, Commodore Wiley, is going to move towards Bravo. He's going to take that cap back. We know that I believe it's the Kitakaze, in fact, the Kitakaze was sunk by torpedoes from the Zhao. But we know that the opposing Yu Yang is in Charlie, taking that cap. But now we have a two-ship advantage. We obviously are still getting points from at least one cap. The opposing team is not getting points from any cap at this point. We have a pretty solid point lead. They get detected here, and here is the Atago. I have a couple of disappointing salvos here. This first one I only get one overpen, and then the next one I only get two overpens. I'm not sure if that was aiming or RNG or both, but it didn't. The first two didn't work out very well. Secondaries are definitely doing work, and you can see the volume of secondaries is quite a bit more with both the Adrenaline Rush and the unique upgrade. They are going out quite substantially. And there I do finally get a decent salvo with the Citadel hit, and I earned Confederate with that strike. And the Atago is going to go down here in just a moment. So the only ship that's left is the Yu Yang. We're about to win on points. In fact, we don't uncover the Yu Yang again. Here come the torpedoes from the Atago, which I'm going to be able to avoid. Yeah, we don't end up detecting the Yu Yang, and we end up winning on points in the end. So I definitely feel like the unique upgrade is viable in like random battles. I don't know that it would be very effective in competitive play. I know that among the more competitive clans, the Großer Kurfürst is probably the least desirable of the tier 10 battleships. I think the Yamato and Montana for sure are very popular for competitive play. But within random battles, the unique upgrade definitely seems to be a lot of fun, so long as it's played right. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.